It's tough to switch jobs in the middle of your career. I mean, you don't learn as fast at age 40 as you do at age 20. And even if you do, well, you're still playing catch up for 20 years, right? That's one of the problems facing Justin Trudeau as the leader of the Liberal Party and the man who wants to be Prime Minister in the next election, expected just 2 years from now. Until Trudeau ran for Parliament in 2008, his job was pretty much being a really ridiculously good-looking trust fund rich kid. I mean, he dabbled at this and that. He taught drama for a while as a substitute teacher. He went to university to start a degree, but never bothered to finish. He tooled around Montreal in his father's $1 million Mercedes Roadster. Seriously, that's how much that car's worth. Not that he didn't ever work. He gave speeches to adoring fans, usually groups of middle-aged women who had girlish memories of how dreamy Trudeau's father, Pierre, was. Justin Trudeau would bill up to $20,000 a pop for such speeches. Not that he needed the money. I think he actually did it for the adoration. I mean, who wouldn't? So switching from that silver spoon lifestyle to being an MP was a change, but not actually a huge change. An opposition MP who isn't the party leader or some other job of high responsibility is a pretty casual job. There's no formal job description, no specific duties. It's really what MPs choose to make of it. And in Trudeau's case, he chose to keep his life of leisure. He actually has one of the worst attendance records of any MPs in Parliament. I mean, a 9-to-5 job is a bit of a shock for an artiste like him. But all of that changed this spring when he became leader of the party. Now he's expected to do more than just shake hands and kiss babies. He's expected to be well briefed on an extraordinary range of subjects. And that's my point. You just can't suddenly know everything about everything. You just can't read a briefing note about pipelines or foreign policy and just have it. I mean, people take years to study these issues, to follow the news, to hear from experts. You can't just do a Henry Higgins makeover and create a knowledgeable expert out of clay. Now, that's the knowledge side, and then there's the experience side of things. Trudeau's never run a company or a charity. Oh, sure, he did get a patronage appointment to the chair at Katimovic, where he racked up big bills with his expense account, but he's never built something, never really led anything, never really had experience as a decision maker. That's the thing about experience. It's like old friends. There is no quick way to have old friends, no shortcut. That's the old friends part of it. Same with experience. You just can't hurry it up. And I say all of this because it's becoming increasingly apparent in Trudeau's public statements. You won't know it from the media party. They're choosing instead to be obsessed with 3-week-old rumors of a video of Toronto's mayor. They don't want to comment on Justin Trudeau's weakness. I mean, if they did, maybe he wouldn't pose for their Facebook photos with them anymore. Take some comments Trudeau made recently in Toronto. Here's what he had to say yesterday about Omar Khadr, the convicted al-Qaeda terrorist and murderer, being transferred to a prison in Edmonton and coming up for parole in just a month.
And Omar Khadr is facing Canadian justice, and that's what we've been pushing this government on for an awfully long time. I'm not going to comment on the details of his prison transfers, but I'm pleased that he's finally back in Canada and able to face Canadian courts as opposed to the Guantanamo Bay.
Well, about that, I mean, Khadr hasn't actually been before a Canadian court, and he won't. He was not prosecuted in Canada. The reason he's here is because President Barack Obama has publicly said he wants to empty out Guantanamo Bay and make all of those terrorists in there someone else's problem. So he's emptying out his terrorist trash can into Canadian streets. And he pressured Canada into taking him, demanding that our government sign a plea bargain that let him out on parole as soon as the summer, as opposed to the 40-year prison sentence a jury in Guantanamo Bay gave him. So Khadr's return to Canada is not the result of Canadian law. It's the result of American politics, forcing prosecutors to throw away a 40-year prison verdict and dump a murderer onto us. But Trudeau is really pleased by this, and he claims it's what Liberals always wanted. Of course, that's not true. From 2002, when Khadr was first captured, to 2006, the Liberals were in power in Ottawa, and they resolutely opposed Khadr being returned to Canada. Only when the Conservatives took office and continued the Liberal security policy of keeping terrorists out did the Liberals become pro-Khadr, and the CBC and the Toronto Star too. Now, Trudeau wouldn't know any of that because he really wasn't following politics at the time. He was still in his Peter Pan phase. Quick briefing note for Trudeau. Omar Khadr isn't just an accused terrorist who needs to face a court. He's convicted. He already faced a court. He signed a detailed fact-packed confession outlining everything he did with al-Qaeda and why and how. And this confession was approved by Khadr's lawyers in the U.S. and in Canada. Not that we needed the confession. I mean, we have al-Qaeda propaganda movies showing Khadr building bombs and posing with a machine gun. Khadr was convicted of terrorism and several other offenses. He murdered this man, U.S. Army medic Christopher Speer, in cold blood. Speer was actually combing through rubble looking for al-Qaeda terrorists to give them medical aid. Khadr killed him. If you can believe it, the Americans still, after that, gave Khadr medical aid, flying in an ophthalmologist from Kuwait specifically to save Khadr's eye. In Guantanamo Bay, Khadr was unrepentant. He boasted to guards that killing Speer was the best day of his life. According to U.S. court filings, he was extremely racist, calling a black female guard a whore, a slave, a servant, and a bitch. Not quite the child soldier angel that the media party used to describe him. To this day, Khadr has never repented or expressed regret or remorse or renounced his murder. He has never renounced al-Qaeda or his father's role as a terrorist. He's more religiously zealous than ever, according to a forensic psychiatrist who studied him extensively. And his family, who publicly boast of their support for al-Qaeda, boast about his murder too. Remember this?
Why does nobody say you killed 3 of his friends? Why does everybody say he killed an American soldier? Big deal.
He killed an American soldier. Big deal. Is there reason to fear Omar Khadr, a remorseless killer, more religiously fanatical than ever, whose own lawyer has twice publicly called for his own client to be de-radicalized? Is there a reason to fear that he will kill again, given that he has never rejected the jihadist mission that caused him to murder in the first place? Well, I think so. Obama obviously thinks so. He wants Khadr out of his own country. But Trudeau? Well, here's what Trudeau thinks.
I think there's an awful lot of fear-mongering going out there by right-wing folks, and Omar Khadr is in the hands of the Canadian justice system, finally, a much fairer justice system than what he's faced in the past, and I have full faith in the Canadian justice system.
So Trudeau thinks that the only thing causing fear right now is right-wing commentators. I'm guessing he means me. So Canadians are being made afraid by me calling evil by its proper name, afraid of me telling them who Khadr is. Trudeau doesn't think that Khadr himself is scary. I'm the scary one. Oh, great. Can we parole him in your neighborhood then, Justin Trudeau? Now, Trudeau probably thought he was spot on with his answer, but his campaign manager, Gerald Butts, knows that Trudeau put his foot in his mouth again, just like Trudeau did when he told Peter Mansbridge that those Boston Marathon bombings, those bombers just probably needed a good hug. Remember that?
We have to look at the root causes. There is no question that this happened because there is someone who feels. Also need to make sure that as we go forward, we don't emphasize a culture of fear and mistrust.
Yeah, that interview didn't sound too good. So Trudeau's tutor, Gerald Butts, wrote this tweet yesterday. It's outrageous that the son would dare ask the child prince a question that he wasn't briefed on by his tutor that morning, eh? Now, maybe Gerald Butts will also lecture Albertans about how they should be happy, like Trudeau is happy that Khadr will be dumped on their streets. I mean, after all, we know Trudeau has a special antipathy towards Alberta. It's a place he goes to grudgingly, just like his dad did. Well, about that, today Alberta's Premier expressed concern that Khadr was transferred to that province and may be foisted on her province's streets. Listen.
I believe that the federal system has to ensure that Albertans' safety is protected and is paramount. I think that if there are arguments to be made that his lawyer would like to make with respect to what he may or may not be entitled to in the justice system, I'm not going to get involved in that. But what I will want to ensure is that absolutely everything is done to protect Albertans and to make sure that Albertans are comfortable.
Maybe Trudeau and Gerald Butts are going to lecture her too. Butts about how she shouldn't even mention Khadr when there are so many other things to talk about, and Trudeau telling her she should be deeply pleased, as he is, that Khadr is about to be free. Look, there's a sickness in the Liberal Party when it comes to crime, and especially the war crimes of terrorists. I don't understand it. Why they want to turn terrorists into folk heroes, I don't know. It's not just Trudeau. Here, watch this exchange a few years ago between Jason Kenney, the Conservative, and Romeo Dallaire, the Liberal senator. It's shocking.
Is it your testimony that Al-Qaeda strapping up a 14-year-old girl with Down syndrome and sending her into a pet market to be remotely detonated is the moral equivalent to Canada's not making extraordinary political efforts for a transfer of Omar Khadr to this country? Is that your position?
If you want a black and white, and I'm only too prepared to give it to you, absolutely.
That's crazy. Dallaire is the most right-wing guy the Liberals have. He's a former soldier, but he's still so extremist and left-wing, such a terrorist apologist. He says that we in the West are no better than Al-Qaeda. That is outrageous. Would Dallaire or Butts or Trudeau say the same things about Paul Bernardo? About Clifford Olson? About the accused Luca Magnato? No, why not? Because those murders weren't politically cool, like Khadr's murder of a U.S. Army medic was. There's something sick going on. It's a moral blindness. Trudeau isn't the cause of it, but he's a perfect instrument for it. He's a vessel for it. He's so vacuous. He's really an empty slate who has never really thought deeply about things, that he's open to any fad or fashion, especially if it seems anti-conservative. So he's channeling the same thing that these moral freaks here are doing. These are real Canadians posing on Facebook with welcome messages for a terrorist, saying he's welcome to live in their communities. They love him. Seriously, could you imagine people holding up signs welcoming Paul Bernardo's parole? Paul Bernardo is welcome here. How's that different? There's a sickness out there. We see creepy free Jahar campaigns on the internet referring to Jihad Tsarnaev, one of the accused Boston Marathon bombers. It's sick. It's largely driven by lonely, morally hollow girls who find Tsarnaev dreamy and dangerous, and maybe they want to fix him and heal him. It's a fantasy. It's the same strange thing as those women who marry death row murderers in prison and even sometimes have kids with them. It's not just weird, though. It's immoral. This woman, Arlette Zink, has had an extended pen pal relationship with Khadr in what she said was an effort to educate the terrorist. She went through the romantic play with him, Romeo and Juliet. Sorry, that's sick. It's just as sick as those girls who want to romance Jihad Tsarnaev. It's mainly girls. Teenage girls or old cougars like Zink, which is why it's so strange to hear it from the mouth of a 41-year-old man like Trudeau. But like I say, Trudeau's still a bit of a child who has a lot of growing up to do. What's scary is that he wants to do that growing up while in the Prime Minister's chair.